Hi there and welcome. My name is Alfonso Rodriguez Cotes and I am a Microsoft Technical Trainer. In this video, we will explore the world of the graph connectors, one easy and common way to enrich Copilot with more knowledge, usually based on the information from outside the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, such as our on-premises servers, databases, and much more. By the end of this course, you will be able to understand how these graph connectors works and how to configure and also manage them. As mentioned, with graph connectors, we can integrate external data sources into the Microsoft Graph and Microsoft 365 experiences in order to let you make non-Microsoft 365 data show up in your Microsoft 365 search results. So you can search for more kinds of content within your Microsoft 365 apps and the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. And Microsoft 365 Copilot will be also able to provide answers, insights, and more based on that data. So, setting up graph connectors in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center allows you to integrate data from other services into the Microsoft 365 Graph. This improves data accessibility, enhances organizational efficiency, and expands search results by including non-Microsoft 365 data in the Microsoft search results. They maintain permissions from your data source, ensuring users only see accessible data. Also, they allow the addition of unstructured business data to Microsoft Graph, enabling Microsoft 365 Copilot to work with all your data. Connectors, built-in connectors, that allow you to integrate external data sources into the Microsoft Graph and Microsoft 365 experience. And you can access these connectors via the connector catalog, or alternatively, you can add a Microsoft Graph connector in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. Some of the categories for these connectors are collaboration and communications. These connectors let you work with different tools and platforms for teamwork and communication. We also have content management systems, and these connectors help you index content from various systems that manage your web pages, documents, and media. We also have databases connectors, and these connectors enable you to search data from different types of databases. Think in enterprise resource planning, ERPs, or customer relationship management, CRMs, sales and support, and others. And these connectors link to various platforms to run your business process and operations. We also have file systems connectors. With them, you can access data from different files storage systems and IT service management tools, ITSMs, and these connectors integrate with tools that manage your IT services and support. In a few moments, I will run a demo about how to create and configure a graph connector, but just let me explain some theory first. Start by ensuring you have admin account access, then log into the Microsoft 365 Admin Center and navigate to the Data Sources tab. Later, I will show you how to do it. With the Graph Connector Agent, GCA, and Graph Connector Service, GCS, you can bring data from different sources, both on-premises and cloud, into the Microsoft Graph. And this way, you can search and use your data across various Microsoft 365 apps. The GCAs and GCS also take care of the data security and compliance, so you can control who can access the search results. Regarding Graph Connector Agent GCA, you install this on your on-premises and it lets you connect to data sources that are not in the cloud. It checks the data sources for any updates and sends them to the Microsoft Graph. Some of the data sources that you can use are File Share and Microsoft SQL Server. On the other hand, we have Graph Connector Services. This is a service that runs on Azure, and it helps you connect to data sources that are in the cloud. It also syncs the data with the Microsoft Graph using some built-in connectors. Once you have chosen the data source and added the connection, you need to specify the attributes. These include the name, which is required. Be sure that users can easily identify and understand the connection's intended use. Also, the connection ID is also required. It's automatically generated. And the description, that's optional, answers the type and characteristics of the content within this connection, how users refer to this content source in their workflows. Microsoft Search indexes various properties to enhance search capabilities. These include system properties like content IDs and URLs, content for full text search, metadata such as author and dates and attachment linked to the main item. Assigning property labels helps Microsoft 365 Copilot to understand your data, leading to a better search results and a smart discovery. The most important label here is title, which allows your connection to join the result cluster party. You can set up the search schema attributes to control how each resource property works in search. A search schema helps decide what shows up on the search results page and what information users can see and access. The search schema attributes include options like query, search, retrieve, and refine. The table lists each attribute that Microsoft Graph Connector supports and explains what they do. For all connectors except the File Share connector, custom types need to be set manually. To enable search capabilities for each field, you need a search schema mapped to a list of properties. The Connection Configuration Assistant automatically selects a search schema based on the source properties that you choose. You can tweak this schema by selecting the checkboxes for each property and attribute on the search schema page. We know data changes over and over. So how can we make sure our data within the Microsoft 365 graphs is updated? So here, let me show you two options. When setting up a refresh interval, you determine how often data syncs between storage and Microsoft Search. Different data sources need different schedules. You can choose between full and incremental refreshes, but not all sources support incremental refreshes. A full refresh in search engines checks and indexes change items in the data source. It is useful for finding deleted data, fixing incremental refresh errors, changing data access permissions, modifying crawling rules, and updating the connection schema. Incremental refreshes allows search engines to index only new or updated items, avoiding reindexing all the data. And this process is faster and helps find changes in content and metadata. However, full refreshes are still needed occasionally to ensure proper data synchronization. To set up full and incremental crawls, go to the refresh setting page. You can choose recurrence days, run once a day, frequency, starting time, and reset options. Tips include not filling all fields, letting connectors decide, and handling overlaps. Fantastic, we have covered all the theory of the graph connector, so now it is the moment to run a real demo to show you how it works within the Microsoft 365 admin portal and also Azure. Well, in this case now, in this demo, what I'm going to do is to showcase how to expand the Microsoft 365 Copilot capabilities and providing more knowledge to this fantastic tool. In this case, what I'm going to do is to create a connection, a connector, a graph connector, a Microsoft file share connector, in order to allow Copilot to answer questions based not just in the data that relies in the Microsoft 365 ecosystem in the cloud, but also in our on-premises servers or data. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is to go to my Azure portal. You can see here my Azure portal, and within my Azure portal, I'm going to I'm clicking on this Microsoft Entra ID. So if you don't find it there, so you can always search into here. So you can search Microsoft Entra, right? And you will get to the same place. And here under the manage options, you'll see tons of options here. And what we need to do is the first thing we need to do is to create a new registration, a new app registration. So I'm going to select app registrations in here. I hope you can see that. App registrations. And I'm going to create an app. So I'm going to create a new registration. And then what I'm going to do is to create something. I'm going to add a name that will be easy to remember. In this case, I'm going to type in here, well, I have already copied, Contoso file share, and this is the default name I want to connect in here. And I need to select the option of accounts in this organizational directory only. Accounts in this organizational directory only. This is the by default option, and this is the one we want. So the next step now is to click on register. Here down on my screen, you can see register. So here I'm going to click and I'm going to register my application, right? So now what I need to do, the next step, is to add some permissions, grant some permissions for my graph connector here. And then I will need to go to add permissions and to see this API permissions. So here I need to click in here, API permissions. And again, I need to add some permissions to this application that I have just created. So I'm going to select different applications. I'm going to add some permissions by clicking on here, and you'll see how we have different ones. So what I'm going to do is to select the Microsoft Graph ones. You can see that here on top, Microsoft Graph. I'm going to click on here, and then the next step is to allow those permissions, these applications permissions. All right. So I'm going to click on here, and we'll have different ones. So we need to first, let me start with the directory one, directory read, in order to be able to read what is in there, in this directory. So directory, I click on directory, you see, I expand this option, and I want directory read all. I have selected this, and also for external connections, here also I'm going to expand external connections and select external connection read write owned by, the last one, this one, read write owned by. I'm going to select also this option, and finally here in external item, here I'm going to select the read write all, the second one, read write all. Well, these are the permissions that I need. I'm going to click in add permissions, and successful, so everything is fine, so we can continue. Okay, right? So grant admin consent for training, because you see here that in the status we can see that are not granted for my tenant. My tenant is training, so what I need to do is to grant this admin consents for my tenant, grant admin consent for training, which is my tenant, and then just clicking on yes. All right, so the permissions are granted. So the next step, the next easy step is to install a Graph Connector agent. In order to do that, what we need to do is to open a new tab here and just go to this link, and what we need to do is to download the Microsoft Graph Connector agent, right? Just download this agent, and it's pretty easy. We just need to select the language we want and click on download. So this is what you should do. If you download that, you'll see an installer, and then you will only need to run the installer. I'm not going to do it because I have already installed that, okay? So once your connector, your agent, your Graph Connector agent has been downloaded, you will need to go to the search tab in your Windows machine and just search the new application you have installed. Here you can see it. So it's my Graph Connector agent, and what I need to do is just sign in and also create an agent for your a new agent, Graph Connector agent. So in order to create this connector agent, you'll see that I have already created it. In this case, my name is Contoso Test. This is my name, the name of the agent that I have already created before. But in order to create the agent, you will need two main resources. So the first thing you will need to include is your app ID. You can find this app ID in Azure. So remember, in your Contoso file share, for example, the name that you provided before, here you have your application ID. So you will need to add, copy and paste that ID. And also the next important step is to also show your application password. But in order to create this application password, this client secret, you will also need to go to Azure again. So inside Azure, inside your application, right? So you will need to go to certificates and secrets. Here you can see that certificates and secrets, and in here you will need to create a new client secret, right? So you can add a description. You can add a description text, for example, or you can leave it by default, the days, the number of days before expiring. So you can create an add, and then you'll see that you will have two different files here. So two different values here. The value of the secret, this is the secret that you need to put into here, right? This is the application password that you need to copy and paste, because you also have the secret ID, but this is the ID for this secret, right? So the important one is the value that you will need to copy and also put it into here, right? Okay, so now what we have done is to create an application, Contoso file share, grant some permissions, and now also after downloading the Graph Connector agent, create that agent, and also create the permissions or grant this agent to access to your data, right? And also to your Microsoft 365 ecosystem, right? Okay, so let's continue. And now, in my case, what I have also is that I have created a folder in my computer. So in this case is the resource file, and in this folder you can see here, in this folder you can see that I have 4 documents: one Excel file, and 3 Word files, right? So, and these are the files that I have on premises, I have on my computer, are not in the cloud, but after creating this connection using Microsoft Graph connectors, so Copilot will be able to answer information based on these documents, not just on the documents that are in my Microsoft OneDrive, right? So in order to do that, in order to create the last step here is I need to go to my Microsoft 365 Admin Center, right? So I will need to go to Microsoft 365 in the Admin Center here, right? admin.microsoft.com, and here in my Admin Center, so you can see that you have settings. We'll need to go to settings. You can see settings here. You can see settings, and then if we within settings, we'll need to go to search and intelligence. I'm going to click on search and intelligence, and here you can see that in my connectors, you can see that I have one connector that I have already created, right? So if you click on here on data sources, you can see your connectors. In this case, I have created a connector which is file connector 1, in file connector 1, and this is the connector that is going to go to the folder I showed you before using the graph agent that we showed before to gather the information. If you want to see how to add this connection, it's pretty easy. So you just click on here on add connection, and in here you can see you can choose many different options. And in this case, we are using file share, the file share option, but again, you can use any of the other options available. You can connect to many sources, and just clicking on file share and then on next. And here you will need to add a name and also add the path. In this case, is the path of the folder of the resources that you want to connect your data, and finally choose an agent, in this case the agent that I created before, and add the authenticate via Windows, and then mark this notice or allow to enable this connection, and read carefully all the information here. And finally, once you have everything, you just need to click on create. I have done that before, and that's why I have already my connector in here, and this is the connector I have with all the data that I have uploaded before and I showed you before. Right, so again, let's do a recap of what I have shared with you. First, we went to Azure to create this application, and also to provide some permissions, create the secrets. Then we have downloaded the Graph agent, the Microsoft Graph agent. We have put some data into our folders, into our on-premises folders, and then within the admin center, we have finally created the graph connection between the agent and also the files. And here you see that we have 4 files indexed. These are the files that are under that folder, especially under this folder, right? And then all our search experience will work with these documents. That's it. Thank you so much. Wow, we have learned a lot together in this module. Basically, we have explored how graph connectors allow us to integrate external data sources into the Microsoft Graph and Microsoft 365 experiences. We have also learned how to create and manage them in order to make our external data discoverable and work in a more intelligent and efficient way. We have also explored the different refresh options. Thank you for joining us in this module. I hope you now have a better understanding of Microsoft 365 Graph connectors. Keep exploring these powerful Copilot solutions to unlock new opportunities and achieve your goals.